Hello and welcome to the Fishing Guide Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Wiegmann, and we are in the Crappie Compound. That's right, Crappie Compound. What's it about? Les Smith is here with us. He is the owner of Crappie Compound, and I hope to get out. I don't know if once you're here you get stuck or you can't leave like Hotel California.
Well, you know, we always keep the light on for all our friends, so right. You're welcome to come, leave anytime you want, so it makes it pretty easy.
Tell us a little bit about what you have here. Why did you start this? What's the theme behind this?
Brad, you know, a lot of these guys, which you see out here this weekend, we're having this grizzly getaway weekend, and a lot of these guys are just great buddies of mine. We've got some wonderful friends that we've met through the fishing world, and right. This was my hunting and fishing lodge for years. And finally, I just got to the point where I couldn't keep up more in one place. So I was spending all my time over here, and all my buddies would come in on a weekend. We'd hang out doing something, either fishing or eating. You can kind of see the eating right. setup here. But we always eat good, whether we catch any fish or kill any deer or whatever. But right. Crappie Compound got named. I think Kent Driscoll.
Kent did.
I think Kent gave it the Crappie Compound name, and it just kind of stuck. And right. you know, and we just got to call it the Crappie Compound. And but a lot of good memories. A lot of good friends have been in and out here.
And the location's close to one of the big four reservoirs, right?
Yeah, it's actually in a great location. We have Sardis Lake, which is a stone's throw behind me here. Uh-huh. We kind of go out 310 here and hit one of the close landings, or we can go right. to the dam and hit the other. But just north of me is Arcabutla Lake, and just south of Sardis is Enid. And right. just about 45 minutes, which is not far, is Grenada. So you got Arcabutla, Sardis, Enid, and Grenada, which are all the big four. So,
and we go into more detail on that, but we want to know about power trolling. Everyone that's watching this show, everyone that's listening to this show, they want to know about power trolling, how they do it, how you set up, lures that you use. And so tell us first about the boat that you use. I think it's a big one.
It's a big one. It's a Skeeter bay boat,
right?
23-footer, and crappie magnet, and has got a wrap on it. You got fin
right.
spin and slab curly on it, and you'll see why in just a moment. But that's my favorite baits for power trolling. Power trolling was my dad actually taught me how to do it years ago.
Uh-huh.
He started crappie fishing. Oh my gosh, he passed away at 88 about 2 years ago, and actually be 3 years in October. This coming October. But my dad, mom fished a lot of the Crappie USA and tournaments and stuff all right. over the country, and that's been 40 years ago. And but anyway, it was a style of fishing that he taught me back then. He it was kind of interesting to see his setup today and see what it's evolved into today.
Right.
It started with B&M. My dad was good friends with Buck Simmons at B&M.
Right.
He started out with some cane poles, 20 foot long. He kind of cut the ends off. He put his own homemade ties, eyelets on it.
Right.
And he was using back then, started out with a 12-ounce weight. So he had a 12-ounce weight. When I learned how to do it, he had a bell weight on the bottom. And he had, and back then there was no limit on the number of setups that you could put on a pole. Today it's 2 right. On our lakes, so you can't have more than 2, but he had 5. They were 2 foot apart.
Right.
And so he was fishing a 10-foot fish column.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, and boy, he'd have those big cane poles out there, and he had that big bell weight, and my mom fished right there with him, and man, we'd go out and catch those fish, and sometimes we'd have 2 or 3 on at a time with 5 setups on, and was just became my favorite way of fishing. And right. I guess if you had to describe power trolling, the reason I fell in love with it, it's an adrenaline rush. Everything's fast, and we call it fast and furious. So We're running summer pattern that we're running right now. It's all about reaction strikes. So those fish, like you heard some of the guys talking about today, they were casting he said, man, they'll come from anywhere to go hit that bait. So if you kind of think about it, they're in a summer feeding pattern, and it's all about reaction. You get something near them, and they're going to take off and hit it.
Right.
So we're covering a lot of water, covering a lot of ground. The fish have kind of moved out into their summer patterns.
How fast are you moving?
We're running 1.7 right now.
Okay.
And we're using the B&M Power Troller. It was a pole designed. B&M got a wonderful power trolling pole.
Right.
It's designed for the heavyweights, designed to handle that.
How long?
I'm using 18 footers.
Okay.
And what's amazing is over the years, and I think live scope has kind of taught us that the further out you get from a fish, the better chance you got of catching it.
Right.
And if you hear live scopers talk, back when live scope came out, that 20-foot mark is kind of the magic number.
Right.
If you get a fish within 20 foot, you better get ready to catch him, or you're going to spook him or do something. So, it kind of made me think, well, the longer the poles, the better off you're going to be to get out away from the boat. So when you sat there on my big 23-foot bay boat and you got an 18-foot poles, you got a pretty good span.
How many poles in the front?
Well, we can run 4 per person on our lake, so we have 8.
8 in the front.
And if I have people, which I do a lot of times, the other day you may have saw the video where we had a 40-boat limit.
Right.
About 9:30, I was doing my watch and we did a video on it. But I had some guys in the back of the boat, and we had John Harrison, Louisiana. We call him Louisiana and Mississippi, but John Harrison, Louisiana, and had my buddy John Mayo, and had Kevin, and had Joe Floyd, and Kirby. Yeah. We were all in there, and we had 9, like I said, 9, no, Joel Harris was in there. Yeah. So we had a boat full of folks. But we
Did you have to set any of those guys in timeout? Like, hey, okay, Kirby, you're in timeout, and then let everyone else fish.
Here's the thing. There's so much action, because you got to imagine to catch 40 fish by 9:30. I mean, it's a pole in the boat at all times, 2 or 3 poles. Right. So you had them going on the front, and then we had we had 2 20-foot drops on the side. We had an 18-foot drop on the side, and we had a long line out the back. Wow. So we were going down there and we were going down the lake, and it's kind of crazy to see all that setup on there. But you're going to have to see, I think somebody's going to post where Joe Floyd had gotten tired, so he was laying down on the back deck, and he took his big toe and he wrapped the line off of one of those poles around his big toe, and he said he was sitting there and he could feel
the wobble.
And so woke him up, and he grabbed the pole, grabbed the fish. But just having fun, man, just getting out there. And it's fast, it's furious, it's an adrenaline rush. There's so many things you can say about it, because it's just fast action.
And so show us what you're using for lures, and tell us about your setup then.
All right. With the 18-foot power trollers, I'm basically, I run a 5-foot leader setup. Now, I run my weight on top. And it's funny how I learned how to power troll with weight on bottom.
Right.
But over the years, I moved it from bottom. I tried the Captain Coleman rig, and then I ended up running it on top. And I'll tell everybody the reason why. If I got a 5-foot leader down there and I have 2 setups on it, and I'm running the fin spins, so basically I'm going to do one or two things. I'm either running a straight fin spin, and I'm putting a curly tail on it. So this is one of my favorites here. So that's a fin spin. That's a curly tail. So lots of times that's basically all they want. The fish are going to tell you what they want. Right. But this time of year, some of my favorite stuff is this. This is called Pro Series. Right. So in other words, this has got some tinsel on it, some flash, and what we do is we in turn take that.
Some mylar.
We actually take the curly tail, and when I talk to people about this time of year, I talk about big and nasty, and this is what we're talking about. I got so you got the Pro Series, and you match them up or put whatever curly tail they seem to be hitting. are working off of. These are some of my favorite colors right there.
What are these colors?
I'm not sure. Are you asking me what the name of the color is?
Yeah, if you do, or describe the color.
Yeah, it's just pink, short, got a lot of tinsel in it, flash. This happens to be, and I know this color is October. I'm not sure what they call that right there, that color. But this has some orange, black, got the flash in it, and got a little flamboyant right there, just a little attractant.
So a jig with a spin on it
Yeah.
underneath it. So you're trolling these without a weight? You're trolling the weight on top. And how heavy a weight are you trolling?
I'm running a 3-ounce weight, and
Okay.
it's on top. It's on my main line. So I run a heavy main line. It's 15-pound test. And I run a dark orange color. It's a orange glow,
Right.
so I can kind of see it out there. And it's a tough 15, 16-pound test.
Right.
So we're running a heavy weight on it. I generally don't hurt the line or whatever it may be. Then I build my leaders. I think you saw maybe it's out there earlier today building those leaders. They're 5 foot. I start out with a crane swivel on top. I come down 2 foot, and I do three loops and an overhand knot.
Right.
I cut one of the loops, and I do a 6-inch leader. So I end up with a 6-inch leader coming off of that 2 foot down from the barrel swivel. Then I come down 3 foot, and I have another one on the bottom. So I got one of these setups that's 2 foot down,
Right.
6-inch leader. Then I come down 3 foot, and I generally run a quarter on bottom and an eighth on top. So that's generally what I do as far as a setup. Let me explain to you why I like that setup, and I think that's important for the viewers. And what I use is an egg weight. So when a fish hits one of these setups on the bottom, that egg weight runs up that main line. He doesn't really feel the resistance. Now, if you put the weight on the bottom, and a fish hits it, he's going to feel that resistance. And you're going to get what I call drive-bys, we call them. They come by and, boy, they'll hit that thing. But I think what they do, they can just feel that heavy weight down there, and they spit it out before they get hooked. I put it in the middle, and it was actually worse. Simply, we'd get a lot of fish that would run by, would hit it, and I thought, why is that happening? But then I got to thinking, you can take a half-ounce weight, you can take a 3/4 ounce weight, 1 ounce weight, and you can run it in a Captain Coleman setup, and it's not a whole lot of weight for a fish to feel right there.
Right.
You bump up to that 3-ounce weight, and that sucker's heavy.
Yeah.
And so they just automatically, when they hit that line, it doesn't give. So if I'm running a 5 foot leader, and nothing, it runs just like a long line setup. So you kind of have to picture that in your mind. If you threw out long lines out the back with no weight, you're just running two about 3, maybe 4 foot apart jigs out the back. You're doing the same thing on the front. The beauty of that is that I can turn around on those fish. So I'm sitting here, I can target fish being on a ledge in a particular area, maybe a lot of shad feeding, and I can just make circles. Long lining or running crankbaits, you cannot do that. So you got to make a big, long
loop, that's right.
Come back through the whole ball of wax. So I can just sit there and work those fish with a power troller.
And you do troll off the back, though, sometimes, right?
Yeah, I love to dual action. Man, you talking about some fun. Got a lot of buddies that do it now where you maybe rig up if you got more than a couple of people in a boat, and you rig up and fishing on the back. Or pontoon boats. We see a lot of pontoon boats on these lakes.
So what rods are you using back there, and what's your setup normally?
I use the B&M PST.
Okay.
Now some of my buddies like the BGJP. It's a little limberer. I don't. I like the PST. But I run, when I'm long lining or pulling cranks, I run a 20-foot PST as my two front rods. And I come down to a 16, and I come down to a 12 and an 8. So I've got a 4-foot stagger between those 4 poles. And what's really cool, and I'll give everybody a little secret, that pulls crankbaits. And by the way, I love PICO, so I love those PICO cranks back there. And but I go above that PICO lure or bandit, whatever I'm using, and I go 3 foot above it and tie one of these on.
Yeah. Are you using a swivel when you tie them on?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a little. It's got a little crane swivel on it, and got a little quick snap.
And so they know the lure that's out there, with the jig head, it's shorter than what the crankbait is. So it actually, whether it looks like the crankbait's chasing your jig, or they want a smaller profile than what your crankbait is. That's the reason. That's how you set it up.
Yeah, we like I say, we've done a few shows doing that, and what's amazing, sometimes you'll catch one on that and catch one with a crank. You just run through, and you reel in 2 fish, and but there's a lot of times we'll out catch your cranks on the back with those fin spins. So you're kind of long lining and cranking at the same time.
So how long does power trolling? What's the peak time for power trolling? What season?
Here's what's cool. From May the 15th on these lakes from now to fall, you can power troll. That's what's so cool. I mean, we have all those months. So you got May, June, July, August, September, October. Wow. I mean, you got 6 months to put her in, and basically all I say is put her in the wind, boys, and get out there, get the right rigs. There's so many people that send me messages, try to, and I know there's a lot of people that want to know technique, but they want to halfway do something. I think you know what I mean. You try to tell them, and then you may respond back, well, it really didn't work for me on my lake or something, and I'm saying, okay, well, how'd you do it? And then come to find out it wasn't anything like what you were doing, and but I think the people that really just and it all starts with a pole. I mean, you got to sit and think about it. If you don't have a pole that can handle a 3-ounce weight, some people say, well, I think I got a pole that'll do a 2-ounce. Fine, go for it. Yeah. But if you're trying to run 1.7 miles an hour and you're running it, you're fishing in 20, 24 foot of water, and those fish are 16, 18 foot deep, you're running a 2-ounce weight trying to keep it down at 1.7. It's not. It's going to be back under your boat back there.
That's just like trolling a crankbait at that point.
Yeah,
it's too far back.
Yeah.
So do you use the rule of thirds for your weight to know how deep your jigs are running up in the front?
Well, here's what's really cool: the live scope. And I'm not a live scoper. Don't get me wrong. I don't like jigging, and I don't like sitting there running those fish down with live scope. Well, it will make you a better troller. Right. I can set that speed on 1.7. I can look down there and find those fish in that water column, and I can look at every one of my baits. That 3-ounce weight, those baits are dragging right there, and I can drop that dude down. I just pull out until I'm right in the water column. If I'm fishing at what's really nice, Archipelago is one of the lakes that you just want to drag the bottom. Those fish stay on the bottom. You can see them down there, just right on the bottom. And I can set those baits to where they're just right across that bottom when I'm going down through there, and you'll see them come up out of there and hit it. But the live scope has made me a better troller. And,
So what are you using to run? So you have your transducer on a different bar going down, right?
Well, I actually have it on my shaft. I use cornfield fishing gear.
Okay.
I use a Tarova, and I run a remote. So Mark has some wonderful products with cornfield fishing. All of my mounts. Mounted on my Tarova, and it also has a place. He's got a way of hooking up the transducer on a Tarova head. It kind of sets off to the side, and so
you're scanning back and forth.
Scanning back and forth. Okay. And let me tell you, it makes it easy for me anyway. And there's a man right out there working on his boat, Steve Coleman, but he told me years ago, he and Ronnie, they do a technique called wildcatting, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that or familiar with it, but even minnow fishing. And you got, if people in their mind would always remember reaction, it's all a reaction strike. You can sit there and on a live scope and watch those fish following those baits, and all of a sudden they either got to make the decision: do I want it or do I not?
Right.
But if you're sitting there going in a straight line all the time, some of the times you're going to see those fish turn off. But if you're going and all of a sudden you just turn, and I said, what are you doing? Well, we call it wildcatting. And, man, I learned that years ago from those guys, which is one of the absolute, if I can tell you a trick of the trade, that's one. Do not go in a straight line. People see me going down the lake, and I'm darting this way, and I'm darting that way. But I'll guarantee you that the bait's either falling or rising when you do that.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's going faster or slower. So one way or the other, sometimes it'll tell you, do I need to slow down some? Do I need to go faster? My dad always taught me, he said, son, if a crappie wants it, you can't outrun it. Right. And so, just take off and go.
There you go. That takes us to Tackle Time. Tackle Time sponsored by PICO Lures. PICO Lures has a complete line of hard and soft baits for all game fish, including crappie if you come to Mississippi. And, of course, you're our spokesperson for PICO crankbaits because you use them and love them. And so we're going to go through the 40 colors tomorrow. They have 40 colors, and you're going to be, I think, pilfering my tackle box. So, Mitch, I will need some new ones by the time I get home.
The others will remain in Mississippi.
That's right. So make sure you check them out at PicoLures.com. Your sponsors, if you want, just give them a shout out. I know you have
my gosh.
B&M.
B&M,
Crappie.
Crappie Magnet, Cornfield Fishing Gear. Yep. You got Bup's Daddy. You got Black Speck Fishing. Just a bunch of great guys, man. I'm just fortunate to have some good friends in the fishing world, but I love all of them. Great bunch of guys.
Well, like we like to say, make sure you keep your hooks sharp and your lures in the water.
Yeah.